All right, everyone, welcome back to 5 Questions with. Today I'm sitting down with Antarah, Leet, and we're going to ask him 5 questions.
Can't wait.
You ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right. Question 1. What is your most memorable interaction with a client?
Um, the most memorable was actually here in Dartmouth, and I went for a listing appointment. Nice people.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to their house, we're walking around, and they had 13 coffins in their living room.
Like a funeral home coffin?
Actually, no. So they were Prohibition era, very small coffins that were shorter than me.
Oh, that's creepy.
It was really weird. And I remember asking, what are they doing here? It's like, oh, we're making shelves. I was like, all right, that's creative. I'm trying to get the business here. So I'm like,
I get it.
that's awesome.
At the time in the listing, the client can literally say anything to you, and you're like, yeah, awesome.
100%. I totally agree. So I tell them that's cool. And I see they have one shelf. I'm like, nice. So you're working on it. How long have you been doing this? They're like, oh, we've had them here for 2 years. And you got to understand, you couldn't move around the living room. You had to walk around the perimeter. It's hard for me to even talk about it because it was a beautiful room. It was a nice house. And there were 13 coffins there.
So the coffins were just in the way the whole time of everything.
We were literally backs to the wall, shimmying around the room because there wasn't even enough space to turn parallel to the wall. It was crazy.
So these people were living with just coffins all around them, and it was absolutely affecting their day-to-day life.
Well, the coffins were just part of the problem. So they were, again, nice people. I don't want them to watch this, but they had more cans of beans than I've ever seen in my life. They put Market Basket to shame. And yeah, so they were doomsday preppers, kind of. They said some very strange things about their kids that I won't repeat here. And then they just had it was like Animal Planet in there. They had rabbits running around. They had dogs, birds. It was really weird.
I could see how that could be memorable.
Very memorable.
All right. Question 2. How do you use technology in your business?
So I've spoken with you a lot about technology. I love it. It's something I'm always aware of. I think it's something that the company overall shares with me as a big priority. I use technology in every way I can, so it's hard to answer that concisely, whether it's the Notes app and scanning in documents when I'm on the fly, or if just sending out things for signatures, which is not that new anymore. I use ChatGPT to help me write listing descriptions. I use the iPhone to measure rooms to get square footage for people when I'm right there. So pretty much anything I can use it for, you'll probably see me using, or at least trying, just to see if I can get an edge.
So now, how do you feel about technology in the business? I know there's a lot of people that think, oh, it's going to replace agents, it's going to replace agents. How do you feel about that?
It will. It definitely will.
Okay.
I don't think it's the technology necessarily that's going to replace people. It's going to be people using technology that'll replace others.
Perfect.
So, and I argue with my family about this all the time. They say, oh, this is never how it was done. It's changing. It's disgraceful. I'm like, yeah, when's the last time you guys made a fire? Don't use the stove. This is how we've always done it, And it's just, that's human nature, is to find a more efficient way to do something. I'm sure when the iPad came out, artists were furious. I'm sure when Photoshop came out, photographers were furious. I'm sure when the camera came out, painters were furious. So there's always going to be something that'll replace something, but it'll also open up so many new roles and opportunities for people. So people like me who are willing to experiment with new technology and stay ahead of the curve, we're going to be fine. It's the people who refuse to even see what's out there that'll be completely caught off guard.
I agree. I think it's those that refuse to implement or kind of want to stick their feet in the ground just based off principle alone is what it seems like. Tech is a huge part of the business, and that's where literally the name Revolv comes from. It's a combination of real estate and evolution. Is you constantly have to be evolving. At the end of the day, we're in the service industry and we want to serve our clients, so we need to have all the tools and the resources to better serve. And trying to ignore technology is doing our clients a disservice at the end of the day. So I would absolutely agree with you. I think people who are using technology will replace the ones who aren't using technology. But technology is not going to replace anyone because there's still something about that face-to-face interaction, which I think is important.
And maybe one day that disappears, but I don't think it's going to be anytime soon.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely agree with that. Okay, so question 3. Antar, I know you're an avid reader. Do you have a favorite book that you would recommend to the audience watching? And why was that book impactful to you?
That's a great question. There were a few that I've read recently. I actually just finished The Four Agreements, which has some things I like, some things I don't. I like the specific agreements in The Four Agreements. Take things personally, be impeccable with your word, never assume anything, and always do your best. I think those are good rules to live by, and it really explains a lot of how we create the world we live in. The world I live in is very much a product of how I see it. And if I look at something and I view it to be terrible, and then I notice it all around me, boom, I'm going to have a terrible existence because that's what I put my energy into. But if I focus on the good things and the things that make me happy and really point them out and recognize them and express gratitude more regularly, wow, I have such a great life now because I'm a product of what I'm putting myself in. And I don't even have to put something in my area to necessarily make that the reality. It's just what you choose to focus on, what you put your attention towards. So I think it's a simple, easy, short read. And yeah, it's not for everyone, but there are definitely a lot of tidbits in it that I think everyone can take something out of. So yeah, I'd say most recently that's probably the one I can mention.
Awesome. Do you think reading is important if someone's in this industry or in any industry? The value of education and kind of reading or some type form of kind of going out and seeking a higher
Mm.
value or higher education in your field. Is that something that you really think is important?
Definitely. I mean, in our field, but in all fields, I think human nature is to improve. And one of the best ways you can improve is to learn from someone who's already done it at a high level. If you wanted to learn about military strategy and you could sit down with Sun Tzu, the legendary
Art of
Chinese,
war.
right? You can get the lessons from someone who you would never come across in daily life, either because they're long gone or you're just not going to meet people like that on average. So you can really expose yourself to the best ideas possible, and not just through reading, through education in general. So yeah, everyone should do it, whether it's listening to an audiobook, reading a book, going on social media and looking for some articles that are interesting, but just adding to your current database of knowledge is one of the best things you can do. One of my favorite quotes, and I'm going to paraphrase it, I think it's Socrates, is I know that I know nothing, therefore I know something. And in English, essentially, what that means is the knowledge of your own, the limitations of your own intelligence, and the knowledge of that is one of the highest forms of intelligence. You have to be able to know what you don't know. And usually those are the smartest people who realize there's so much info out there and you're never going to know all of it. Versus the person that thinks they know everything is usually far dumber than the other guy.
That feeling can be incredibly overwhelming when you realize you don't know shit. Excuse my language here, but that's true. When you think about the world or whatever's out there, you only know it from your framework, from your perspective. And I think getting other perspectives and reading and again, even just talking to other people, it can open your mind up so much. And that's why I value reading is just hearing someone else's experience or how they do things or even just slight words that they change and they say things differently. I can directly implement that into my personal life as well as professional life.
Of course.
So that's why I love reading. I think it's very important as well. Before we go on to the next question, anything else about reading?
Um, there's a quote that I really like, which is fools don't learn from their mistakes. Smart people do, but wise people learn from the mistakes of others.
It's a
And
great quote.
I like it. It's true. And I think reading is just another way that that applies to life is you can learn from the mistakes of people who've lived maybe 1,000 years before you, and just all of the collective human knowledge that's been built up over time is pretty much there for your uh, adoption. You could just take it on. So yeah, that's about it.
Cool. Question 3: if you were to have your dream home, would you be in an urban environment or a rural?
Urban, without a doubt. I definitely enjoy being out in nature. I think nature is beautiful. I went camping in Maine recently. It was really, really cool. But I don't like having to drive for more than 10 minutes for anything. So I grew up in Egypt, for those of you that don't know, and I moved to Providence, Rhode Island, middle of Providence, and I was like, this is suburbia. This didn't feel like a city. I grew up where you go downstairs, and it's just the entire universe is right there. You want toilet paper, it's there. You want Indian food, it's right there. You want medical supplies, you want to go buy a dentist chair. My street has like 6 different providers of dentistry supplies. So it was just, I like that. You feel like the world's alive. You're really in the center of everything. It's more stimulating. And it's just, there's so much more to do. Don't get me wrong. I'd like to sit in nature every now and then, but to live out there, no, no.
Maybe that'll change as you get older. I've seen some people kind of want a more slower paced life than, but I would agree with you. I'm definitely more urban over rural.
Of course.
If something is 15, 20 minutes away, I don't want to go.
I think, yeah, I don't like to drive. Maybe that's a Rhode Island thing that but I mean, we didn't really drive much in Egypt either. You would take taxis everywhere because it's just easier. It's cheaper. You don't want to deal with parking. But safety is a big element too. I know cities have a lot of crime, but at least you got a neighbor who might hear you if you need something.
Something happens, yeah.
If you're just out there in the middle of nowhere, whether it's a bear or like some crazy person, you are the only one who's going to be able to handle
It's a
it.
great point. And I think, again, if we're talking about crime, it's just because there's a higher density of people.
Yeah.
So that's just going to happen when you have that many people in one area.
Yeah, I'm sure if there were a bunch of bears in New York City, you'd probably have a lot of bear attacks too. But they're all in Maine, so yeah.
Okay. Final question, 5th question here. If you could time travel and they were going to drop you in the future or the past, where would you want to go?
Do I get a say in where in the future or where in the past?
No, random. We're going to put you randomly 50 years in the future or 50 years in the past.
I think I would pick the past. I'm a bit of a history nerd, so I would hopefully, no matter where I get placed, I'd be able to figure it out quickly enough and try to, I don't know, I'd try to predict the future for them. Be like, oh, in the next 2 years, this will happen. I think Christopher Columbus did something like that. He was able to predict the eclipse, and he was going to get destroyed by all the natives. They were like, oh, get out of here. He was like, wait a second, the sun's going to disappear. They're like, all right, sure, buddy. And what do you know? Sun disappears.
He probably looked like a god.
Yeah, they pretty much thought that. So he was able to save himself. And
so that's why you want to go back to the past. You want to be looked like a god with all this future knowledge.
It sounds nice. The other thing is they could also think I'm like a witch or something, and then it could also end pretty badly. But yeah, I definitely pick the past just because at least we know what happened, and the future could be nothing. There could be no future. I don't want to it's just me and I'm the only human left. It's just me now. So I'll take the past, whether it's you got to light a fire or something. I'd take the past.
That sounds good. All right. Well, that concludes the 5 questions with Antarah. Do you want to plug yourself?
My name is Antarah Leet. I'm not going to give you my phone number, but if you Google my name, ANTARAHLEET, you should find me pretty easily. I think I'm the only one out there with that name. I can help you buy, sell real estate, or if you just want to learn about some of the things I like to talk about, which are a lot of things, I'd love to have a chat.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you, Antarah, for coming on. For all of you watching, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more episodes of this coming out with more Revolv agents. My name is Cory Dasilva, and this was 5 Questions with.
Thank you, everyone.